Hey guys, it's a nice sunny day. Let's go see what Luis is up to. Hey, it's Ken and Luis. We're just driving around. So Luis, your dream car.
Yes.
Lamborghini Countach.
Yes.
Who didn't have a poster on their wall of a Lamborghini Countach?
Right. It's that quintessential mid-80s. If you're a kid who was born in the 70s, you know it was that black Countach with the gold rims.
That's the poster you had, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Oh yeah.
I had it up there for a long time. I still have it framed.
Nice.
A small blue one.
Nice.
I still have the frame of that. I don't know why I keep it, but I do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, at this point in my life, I wouldn't say that is like a big goal to get, but I think I definitely would. I wouldn't be upset if it happened. That's a really big, important part, of my childhood.
Tell everybody about yourself, Luis.
Man, where do I start? My name is Luis. I'm a real estate investor and coach at WealthGenius. And I'm a father of two. I have a lovely wife. We live here in Greeley. And that's kind of like what I'm about these days.
So how did you get started in real estate, and what's your why?
I started in real estate with my wife. We bought that house that I was just talking to you about in Blossom Park. It was a big house. It was like one of the biggest houses. It was just like a white box, and it had so many rooms. We bought it before we got married, and it had a basement apartment, and like fully like equipped with like laundry, its own entrance, and nowadays people call that they call it house hacking. Back then it was just like it's got a basement apartment.
Yeah.
So we rented the basement for like $800 a month, and it offset the mortgage like pretty good, and it wasn't like we were we didn't even need it. The house was so big, so it was a nice little income and a mortgage payment, and then we got into like some other stuff, some pre-construction, and that didn't go well. I'm not gonna go into that, but basically we bought some pre-construction stuff, and we didn't know anything about underwriting. Just basically the bottom line, and we ended up liquidating those in 2017, and I just kind of moped around and felt I felt like a failure, because we tried it and it didn't work, and I had really big plans and aspirations, and in 2018 Alfonso Cuadra came knocking on my door, whom I had known at that point for like almost 20 years, and he said, "Why don't you come to my real estate seminar? Just come check it out." And I was like, "Oh man, I don't know." And he's like, "Just come. What do you got to lose?" And of course I knew him and I trusted him, so I knew it wasn't going to be anything like bad.
Yeah.
And then on the third day of the workshop, you've been to a few of them. On the third day, I was just so like overwhelmed and like emotional. Like he does this exercise with, he makes you color these boxes.
Yeah.
And that thing just
puts it into perspective.
Man, it lit a fire under me like you wouldn't believe. And I was like, man, I really got to do something, because this is like, I'm running out of time here. And at the time, we had two boys. Our boys were really little, like 4 years old and 1 year old. And I started the mentorship, and the rest is kind of history. The rest has been like a whirlwind. Like, I've accomplished so much ever since I joined that mentorship with him. And now the business is just it's to say that it's exploding is a bit of an understatement. It feels like a Cinderella story, and I feel ultimately blessed to be here, with him and people like yourself as part of my my day-to-day life, really. Like, you know, I haven't always been doing this full time. Before that, I was in the government, as you know.
Yeah.
22 years in the federal government, and I recently submitted my resignation. So I didn't really want to start off my bio today on that, because it's such a small part of my life now. But prior to the real estate, it was pretty much all my life. Like, it was like just that job. And
yep. But it's funny you say that. It's, you know, it's a small part of your life, but it got you to where you needed to be at this moment, right?
My wife reminds me of that all the time, and she's absolutely right, and so are you. It definitely got us to where we are today, and it provided a lot of like stability and, you know, like healthy income. But now it's time to like go into another phase of our life and our development. And
you have to commit it. It's like an artist, right? Somebody who wants to be an actor, or somebody wants to be in a band or something. If you're going to have the job, which we know is just over broke, or and you're striving to be an artist, at some point you have to make that sever. You have to commit 100% to it.
You can't serve two masters.
No.
You know, you could try, and it might kind of work for a little while, but then you're going to get to the point, and this is my experience, you're going to get to the point where you're going to have to make a decision to either continue as is and then have like kind of like very small linear growth, or you say, okay, I'm gonna commit 100% to this passion of mine and serve that one master and really have exponential growth, which is kind of like what I've experienced in the last 12 months. You know, the last 12 months of my life have been extremely positive and extremely successful.
So you can see that noticeable switch. Growth.
It's night and day.
Yeah.
It's night and day, you know, in every way. In every way.
Is that when you knew that you had to leave your job?
About a year ago, yes.
Yeah. You kind of saw it.
The writing on the wall became brighter, louder, more blatant. It's like, at least you got to do something, because this is not working.
Yeah, it won't be sustainable. Something's got to give, and you had to pick which one.
Yeah.
And I'm glad.
And it wasn't like an accident. Like, it wasn't like...
No, it's by design.
It was 100% by design.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, it's 100% by design. And, you know, it didn't just happen. It wasn't like, oh, well, look, here I am. No, it was like building blocks, foundation, constant work. Like you use the analogy of an artist, like constant chiseling away and refining and improving and being consistent. You know, being consistent with what it is that you want to do. I've been using lately the term aggressively patient, which I borrowed from Patrick Bet-David.
Okay.
On YouTube, and all it really means is consistent. You're consistent day in, day out, whether it's popping or not, because you know one day it will, and you just got to do it, whether it's easy or whether it's hard, and just keep striving, keep doing the action steps that are going to put you in that place where you're going to arrive, and you're going to say, like Alfonso always says, you know, in 5 years you will have arrived. And who are you going to be? Are you going to live in a house like that, or are you going to live in a house like that?
Yeah. I like, you know, that's interesting that you mentioned, you know, that you want to live in this house, you want to live in that house. Warren Buffett is, to me, so down to earth. This is a guy who has billions, and he lives in the same bungalow that he's lived in since the 1960s.
Yeah.
It's like, if you met him on the street, driving a regular car, living in a regular house, you'd have no idea. And that's, to me, that's the epitome of being humble.
And Alfonso has a lot of those characteristics. You would never know.
You would never know.
Ever.
No.
You know, he drives a leased Ford.
Not just a regular car.
Just a regular car. And
yeah, just like everybody else.
Yeah,
you know?
just like everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, he takes Ubers once in a while. And
sure, why not?
you would never know.
Yeah.
And he could live in a house like this very easily, but
yeah. But what's
the point?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, they're beautiful.
They are beautiful. I would love to. I would love to live in one, but I just don't want to have to worry about the mortgage.
Yeah.
You know? And if you listen to certain people like the big heavy hitters like the Grant Cardones, they'll say, you know, you should rent where you live.
Okay.
You know, rent your house, and you should own what you want to rent out. You know, like...
Sure, yeah, okay. Well, we know somebody who's doing that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's probably quite a few WealthGenius people that are doing that.
Yes.
They're renting where they live,
and then
but they own a bunch of stuff.
They own a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's a pretty good model.
Which is counterintuitive to that story that we've been told. You can go straight.
Yeah, it is. Own your house, pay down the mortgage. You know, that's what our parents teach us.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm glad that, you know, I know that your why is definitely your kids.
100%.
And your family.
Yes.
In general, but
100%.
Generational wealth. But I know that, you know, you're teaching your kids not what our parents and our grandparents taught us.
No.
You know?
No.
Because that model, although
broken.
Well, yeah, although it's admirable, it really is broken.
In this economy, it's broken.
Yeah.
You know, it's a dead-end street. It's a dead-end street. You and I both know where that street ends, and it's in a dead end.
Yeah.
So I'd rather teach them these new lifestyles, and my wife as well.
Yeah.
And you know, we brought them on walkthroughs.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday my son Santino said to me, "Oh, did you know, mommy and daddy, that my grade 1 teacher is from Thunder Bay?"
Okay.
And I said, "Did you know, Santino, that mommy and daddy are part owners of a tower?" Because I call apartment buildings towers to give it a grandiose vibe.
Yeah.
I said, "Do you know that we own a tower in Thunder Bay, 19-unit Thunder?" And he was like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Just you and mommy?" I said, "No, with partners."
Yeah.
And he was like, "You know, usually
we go see?"
No, well, he paused, and I could tell that the hamster was like running on the wheels like really fast.
Yeah.
Because he's just trying to understand that vibe, that.
What does it mean?
What does that?
What
really
are you telling
mean?
me?
And I said it's got businesses downstairs. It's got like a daycare, and he was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah." Part of my why is also that lineage that I feel is inside of me. This is my friend's dad's house.
Yeah.
And he owned and still owns much of this land. And he's been developing it and or selling it to developers.
Very nice.
Built most of these homes. And it's just, sorry to interrupt, but it's just like I had to say the story because, you know, the programming that we get from our parents is really, really key in defining who we are. And sometimes we go up against it. Sometimes, look at that. Sometimes we go with it. But at the end of the day, it shapes a lot of our decisions. You were saying something about Alfonso.
Well, Alfonso and Warren Buffett, yeah. So it's, you know, they live humbly. They don't have a lot of flashy stuff.
No.
You know.
No.
You know.
Consumer type stuff.
Consumer.
Consumerism.
Yeah.
They don't have that. They're not interested. They didn't drink that Kool-Aid. They didn't buy into that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think Alfonso did when he was younger, but he quickly learned that it's like a rental. It's like you're renting a lifestyle, and he's not interested in that.
Well, when you look at the two, right? I mean, Warren Buffett, what he did, and you see what Alfonso did. Long time ago, as a real estate investor, you know, everybody recognizes at some point that the linear income model doesn't work, right? So that means that if something happens to you, that's it. Like in my family and with a lot of people's families, if something happens to them, that's it. Their income is gone, right? So doing real estate investing the way that we're taught to do it and the way that you're doing it, if something happens to you, your family's still okay, right?
Yeah.
And to a certain degree, to be even more morbid, something happens to both of you, your kids are taken care of already, right?
I don't think it's morbid. I think it's responsible. Yeah. It's responsible because I'm at a point now where I'm not only thinking about, you know, Santino and Johnny, our kids, but I'm thinking about their kids. And I'm thinking about what I can do with my wife to leave a legacy behind, so that they can say, you know, your granddaddy and your grandmom were this, and this, and they did this, and this, so that we could, you know, grow the business or expand into other businesses, you know. And that's really something that I want them to understand, is that they have that option to grow businesses. You know, they can still strive towards having an education, but I want them to be able to understand that they can do whatever the heck they want.
Yeah.
I'd love for it to be real estate, but if it's not, the real estate's going to continue to outlive that. You know?
So your initial why, like the first day that you said, "Why am I doing this?" Have you stuck to it, or have you tweaked it? Has the core stayed the same?
The core has stayed
modified a little bit.
The core has stayed the same, but I think your why has to shift and modify and adjust a little bit. But the core has to be the same. You know, that I just don't understand how it could completely change. I don't know anybody who's experienced that type of shift in their why. I think it's important to reevaluate your why and to reevaluate your goals on a regular basis, and that's something that I preach to my students regularly, is have a very strong why, because everything derives from that. Your goals, your dreams, your activity, everything revolves around your why.
Yes.
So if you look back, wow, look at that.
Nice. Eh?
If I look back on my why, it hasn't really shifted all that much. You know, there was talk of like retirement, you know, retiring from my job, and now that has happened, I can focus on, you know, expanding my why. You know, the why and goals is kind of interchangeable for me.
Makes sense.
And that's why I always preach, you know, like nail it down, because if you don't nail it down, you're gonna have a susceptibility to FOMO.
Yeah.
And FOMO is a real thing, man. Like FOMO can be, it could be a powerful force that propels you, but it could be a powerful force that cripples you, because you're just kind of like giving up, or you're so depressed because you're missing out on so many things. You know.
Yeah, that's you know, for some that may not know, FOMO is fear of missing out. And here's the thing: you can have the fear of missing out, but if you put it into perspective over time, you know, you don't want to miss out over 5 or 10 years. So you have to have that FOMO for but it's that x-axis, that time. If you're just buying something or doing something immediately, then that's the FOMO you don't want. The FOMO you do want is have a little bit of sense of urgency. I mean, to me, have a little bit of sense of urgency that if you don't do anything for 15 years, well then, you know, at some point,
it'll catch up.
It'll catch up. And you better have a bit of FOMO at that point.
Right.
You know, so it's like, okay.
And to your point, you wanna have, it's almost like you wanna trick yourself, or I always use the term brainwash.
Okay.
And the term brainwashing has a negative connotation, but the
Yep.
way I use it is you're gonna wash your brain off and get rid of all the junk and negativity, and you want to wash it and keep it clean and pure, and fill it with clean, positive, propelling thoughts, such as your why, such as your goals. So if you want to have a fear of missing out, it should be a fear of missing out on your goals and your dreams, not somebody else's. Not because somebody went to Italy and you know, had a great time. And you know what? It's a decision. It's a calculated decision that is based on the goals, the long-term goals and the long-term dreams. Is it gonna serve me? Is it gonna help me achieve my goals and dreams? If the answer is yes, then go for it. If the answer is no, then FOMO has no place in your equation.
I think we covered some of the tips, but if you had tips to give to somebody who's just starting out, I mean, I think we covered the FOMO. I think that's a really good one.
Yeah.
What other things would you say for people that are just getting going and maybe stumbling or hesitating?
Write down your goals, your dreams, your why on a piece of paper, on a big piece of paper. Put them in a place where you could see it every single day, and read it. Read it out loud.
Okay.
Something I'm doing with a few people in the group, some peers in our group, is that I'm writing my 30-day goals every day.
Yeah.
It's like 10 goals. I write them out on a piece of paper every single day, and it's almost a way of brainwashing myself again. It's a way of manifesting. It's a way of making those things real, like tangible.
It's interesting that you say 30-day goals. Explain a little bit how that works.
This was just a quick conversation that I had with Christian and with Pierre in the group, and I said, imagine doing that, and they said, well, why don't we do it? So we did it. I'm a big 90-day goal guy. I like to focus on quarters of the year, and I always tell my students, if you're worried about FOMO, if you're worried about getting things accomplished, I'm not saying no to your dreams. I'm saying put them down on paper, and then group them according to quarters regarding what you want to concentrate on for that specific quarter. And at the end of the quarter, reevaluate. So if I was going to give a tip, I would say write things down. Write them down with your wife, with your partner, with your husband. You know, decide as a family what it is that you're going to focus on, because wherever your focus goes, wherever your focus goes, the energy flows, or whatever it is.
Okay.
So basically, if you're creating these goals and you're writing them down on a piece of paper and constantly cultivating them and constantly giving them the attention that they require, then that's gonna lead you in that direction. So it's gonna make you become obsessed about your goals and your dreams. And Grant Cardone's got a book, I think it's called Become Obsessed or Stay Ordinary, something like this.
Okay.
So, you know, if I were to give a tip to one of your listeners, I would say write down your goals, man. Give them the importance that they require, and become obsessed over them. Become consistent. Become aggressively patient. Something happens when you write something down on a piece of paper with a pen. something happens between your hand and your brain. It creates like this synapse of tangibility. I don't even know.
Yeah.
It becomes real.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a society where we're just like, oh, I'm gonna write it, I'm gonna type it, I'm gonna type an email. That's too, like, in my opinion, that's too robotic. I'll type it into my phone. It's not the same as writing it down on a piece of paper, putting it on the wall, and then saying it out loud every single day while you're brushing your teeth, for example. You know, the vision board is key. This all flows into the vision board. You know, the pictures, you know, the words, the manifestation, the affirmations, like all that stuff is key. And it should 100% be part of your daily routine, because otherwise, if you don't make an emphasis, if you don't become obsessive about that positive stuff, there's so much negative in our lives that you're gonna be repeating all the negative stuff, and that's what ends up happening to most people, and that's why they get sick.
Yeah,
because they're thinking about the negative crap. What other advice can we give to somebody who's just starting out? And I would say, limit your exposure to the news and to social media. I'm not saying cut it out. I'm saying be very purposeful and be very specific with which outlets you listen to.
When we're doing real estate investing, it's important to know certain things. Like if you're going to buy a piece of property in a town, it's nice to know what the town is all about. It's nice to research that. Those tools are at your disposal. You know, learning the craft of real estate investing. We have Facebook groups. We have YouTube. You go to YouTube and you listen to Grant Cardone, you listen to Alfonso, you listen to guys from REC Canada, you listen to all these people. That is productive use of your time. Watching a video of a cat swimming across a lake because cats don't swim, not so productive, right?
But it's entertaining.
It's entertaining.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's entertaining for sure, but you wanna like, I'm not saying don't look at that stuff. Yeah. But maybe just don't go down that rabbit hole, you know.
It's okay to disconnect. You just don't want to get obsessed.
That's right. Get obsessed about your goals and dreams.
Yeah.
And make that like your primary focus. And you know, if you want to look at cats swimming, just limit it. You know, limit it to like 15, 20 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah. It kind of segues into what I experienced, and you know, you probably experienced as well. When you got that fire lit under you, that's all you were doing, right? And then there was no downtime. You didn't have time to decompress. And I think that's a danger. Take the time to decompress.
It's a fine line. You're right, though. It's a fine line. You're right. A really good strategy for decompression is exercise. For me personally, I find that if I get a really good sweat and I just kind of it resets my brain.
Okay.
You know, it resets my brain, and it gives me time away from all of that other stress or all those other worries or all those other obsessions, whether it's work related or not. It kind of takes a back seat.
Yeah. But here's the thing: is that you can marry the two, right? Real estate investing, like you said. You took your kids on a walkthrough, you know, the whole family. That's fun.
Yeah.
You know,
walkthroughs, drive-bys. Like, hey, look, we're gonna try and buy that tower, you know, that apartment building.
Yeah.
Really, Daddy? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it becomes normalized for them. You know, by the time they're 18, 20, and they're ready to start making their own, or even earlier, if they start, it'll be normalized for them. You know, that's what happens when we go to these retreats, these mastermind retreats, is these conversations become normalized for us.
Yeah.
We are like, oh yeah, we're just going to fundraise and we're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, not how, but who, you know.
I'm glad you brought up the real estate retreat, because we went to the one in Sandbanks. Right?
Yeah.
And you think, okay, you're there 4 days, it's long days, and you think, oh, okay, it's like going into a classroom where you're writing notes all day. But you know what? It was structured in such a way that you were playing and learning at the same time.
We were manifesting.
We were
creating.
It wasn't constant, you know, like when you take a course, like you take a dry course on something. Oh my God, some of them you just want to poke your eyes out, and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon you got your forehead
You're
buried.
guzzling all this coffee. You're like, I gotta stay awake.
I gotta stay awake. But in the mastermind retreat and the way that it was real estate, and if you remember when I was talking to Christina about it, real estate is not a 4-year program. You graduate and then you go and find something. You're doing it. You're always in motion. When you're learning, you're having fun. It's not that structured, and it's a great time. So next thing you know, like 4 days have gone by. Why? Because you've done things during the day that is mixed into the learning. Like when we went to the beach, you know, to do the circle and listen to the struggles that everybody had. To me, that was fun. You know, yes, you got to participate, and yes, you got to learn, but you're on a beach.
That was my mastermind, by the way. When it was my turn to ask,
Yeah.
we were on the beach, and people were masterminding, helping me create a solution to to my problem or to my quandary. And I always thought to myself that it was like I was so privileged that my mastermind was on the beach. You know, like we're learning on the beach, and it wasn't like classroom type of learning. It was like it was like workshop. It was like we were in the workshop building the foundations for something really, really important.
Yeah, it's awesome. Luis, it's been great. I'm really glad that you accepted my invitation to be on the podcast.
My pleasure.
A beautiful
Anytime.
day. Always a great time to hang out and just shoot the shit.
Isn't it like just a beautiful, like, it's just a beautiful day.
Yep.
You know, and Thanksgiving is just around the corner, and it puts a lot of thankfulness and gratitude in my heart, and I'm very thankful for all I have in my life and my experiences, especially in the last year. You've been a big part of that.
Thanks.
You know, you were one of my first students.
Yeah.
You were like my third student. You know.
Yep.
And I had, if you would have asked me back then, what do you think the next year is going to look like? I would not have described this moment, this type of lifestyle a year ago. I would have expected it to be more linear and slower, but instead the explosion or the development has been very exponential.
Nice. All right. So everybody, be humble, be kind. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And we'll talk to you later. Bye.